My goal is not to just have AI because everybody has AI.
It might look funny and you might think, oh, it doesn't work, but it works. I feel it myself.
What are the questions you have? What is the support that you need? And how will you make your decisions?
Good to see you. And today we are talking with Sudhakar. He's a C-level professional with multiple decades working in multiple firms, mostly focusing on consulting angle of different approaches. And today we will discuss how AI influencing current adoption by different type of companies, from small, medium to enterprise companies. But there are some patterns which we envision in our practices, both from consulting perspective, from AI automation, which we do in Alltegrio. And today I'm happy to discuss that with Sudhakar and to share our visions with each other. Sudhakar, nice to see you today.
Thank you, Oleg. It is nice to be with you. And yep, I'm really happy for this conversation, because in Future Forward Collaborative that we run, we find that many clients are interested, intrigued, and overwhelmed about AI at the same time. So I'm really happy to have this conversation with you as an expert on AI.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear about they are afraid, because we experience different patterns, but some of them are going very fast from big excitement to big scare, because once the companies are starting to implement something, in my opinion, the first reason of this rejection is people. And people are not trying to dig deeper into solutions, and what they see and envision with some problems that they're saying, oh, AI doesn't work. As an example, there is some mistake in giving the answer, and during this answer, there are some mistakes. And of course, it's a problem when you face some leads in your sales pipeline. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It means that there is a need for proper solutions, which will allow you to basically cut off copy-paste work of different departments, different people. And this, in my opinion, one of the biggest problems at the moment with the companies and the adoptions of AI.
Yeah, I agree, but with a little bit of twist on that one. So if you allow me to disagree with you respectfully on one or two things, I think what I see when companies say no or not sure or not at this time, either one of those three things, it's a reflection of two things in my mind. One is the clarity, and the second one is the trust. So when I say clarity, what it means is like they're not clear what you're proposing or what you're saying is exactly going to solve their problem and get them to where they want to be. That's one part. And then the second part is the trust. Like, why should I trust you when I know that I've heard about 15 other people like you? So the question comes is that now, so our philosophy is always from human-centered, like really understanding who the customer is and what is their emotional state, what is their success actually means, and what's the behavioral pattern that we can help them with. So applying that principle to those two things, is question comes is like, how can we build that trust? How can we give them that clarity, not about what AI can do, but what AI can do exactly for you, your situation, and what you're trying to accomplish. If you can make those two connections, in my opinion, things can get a little better and easier for both the service provider, but also the company. Because I think what they really challenge, like the company that you recently talked to, that I served in the past, they are really open, but because they have heard from 15 other AI service providers, so they don't know to who to listen to, because everybody's talking some positive aspect of it. But then the question comes is like, can you understand me as a customer and connect the dots for me, for my specific needs? And it calls for you to understand them and their objectives first.
Yeah, in this specific case, I saw that there is a huge interest, and we're just discovering at the very early stage of our conversations. But yeah, we saw multiple such type of connections where people are very excited, and then there is some disconnect. In my opinion, there are, I have a bit different vision on how management works in the companies, and from my perspective, not always it's the problem with trust. That's a problem that people are not pushing themselves much enough to get changes done. That's right. Kind of harbor of conveniency and being in a warm bath that for many years worked, and now their system is changing. Not even changing, it's like exploding with changes within multiple directions. And I think it's overwhelmingly influence management, and they just don't know which angle to take. And secondly, again, this pace, let's call it pre-AI era of management, now is changing so fast that people are just saying, "Oh, maybe it doesn't work." It's the easiest way to say and to not participate in the wave of changes in the companies.
Right.
But from clients we work, we see that the pattern is changing from we were scared, we didn't trust. Now we see that it works to mass adoption. And these steps are very important, how the first small things which actually start to work and they show the results, create the confidence and trust with us as a contractor, as a supplier of services, with the companies who didn't believe that that's possible.
So that's interesting. So let me ask you this. So do you use those stories to tell how the trust was developed over time and the outcome of that trust into the results through AI for your new clients' conversations? So
I
let me
don't
replay back
know
because
if I understood you correctly, but basically, trust starts to work once we not only create their services. We are trying to help the clients with their final business needs. And now, quite recent few cases where that, oh, I want you to create us this tool, and we're trying to dig deeper and to ask, why do you need this solution? Now we understand that it's not result oriented, but rather operational and process oriented. And we pushing the boundaries of management to ask about the final goal, what you want to achieve. And only after that, we see that, for instance, this tool is intermediary, or maybe that's the beginning. And if we will create it, it will be like waste of time and money for the company, because next step will lead to other solution, which can actually be bypassed using AI. Right now, you can bypass many steps and to get to the real result, which actually we help few companies to see the final result, not operational effectiveness. When we're talking, for example, when we're talking about their sales pipeline, their final goal is not to improve your lead conversion. The final goal
Right.
is sales increase.
Sales
And then
increase,
we're
yeah.
thinking, what and where can be improved, including their conversion rate of different stages of sales pipeline.
Right. No, I think that's an important aspect, because without that, whatever you do, however effective it may be, the leadership may not accept it because they don't receive it that way. So I think you're doing the right thing in that situation then, because that's exactly what I said in the first aspect, which is clarity. How does it help me achieve my goals as a leader, business leader? Because my goal is not to just have AI because everybody has AI. My goal is to leverage the AI for whatever objective that I may have. Growth might be one objective, simplification could be another objective, efficiency could be third one, and many other aspects. But once you understand that, and then you say that this is how we will be able to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish with AI faster, better, and much more elegantly. That's the key point. So I think you're doing the right thing. So let me ask you this question, because you are in this service, and based on my experience, I want to ask you this: when the customer is hesitating to say yes, what is your read, why that must be happening, and what are the typical solutions for that? So what are the top of the things, what do you think about that, or how you think about it?
That's happen very often, and what we are trying to do, we first of all show their cases we've done and implemented, and secondly, we are trying to do a small pilot with the client, potential client, and to show their results and how these results will influence their immediately in their workflow, in their results. That's how we can build up the trust bridge faster, if I may say that. But still, it's a big thing when it's a good discussion what happens in the heads of people, because it's actually then influences what they do. And in my opinion, what I see right now, that the pace of this race is not picked up by many companies. I see
Right.
that the adoption on a high level goes with these tech companies. You see what happens, scale of layoffs. Meta
Yeah,
just
right.
today announced like thousands of employees receive this
True.
wave of laid off emails, and it shows that the companies are adopting so fast, and not talking about Google or Meta and companies like that, but
Right.
the smaller companies, they also see that the number of effort you can do right now versus you've done before is significantly higher. But if your business is not growing that fast, with what you can do right now. It means that you have extra force, which you either grow your business or you need to grow your profitability through
Right.
regarding
No,
the
I
job,
think
unfortunately. But I think that this is a big topic. We can discuss it one day, maybe touch base a little bit today. But obviously, the systems we are building right now and scale those systems are bypassing the number of people that has been needed before for those jobs. And now you see that the shortages of jobs in US specifically are in jobs where you need manual work. And not many people want it to do right now because it was a focus to be a university graduate, you go to the blue collar jobs. And now we see that those blue collar jobs were basically mostly cognitive things which
right.
are replacing and AI are replacing those functions and very effectively. But you raised the question about the results, and the results of AI are not something that you can rely on. Not results, but final outcome. Final outcome is still on you. That's what we see, that people are still very important at the final stage of decision making. You
Right.
cannot
Right.
say build me. I saw a lot of video on Facebook, Instagram. Just say, and our tool will do a magic, and you'll get the results. And I see many tools, for instance, for doing the presentations. Like we do the
Right.
presentation, we will bypass McKinsey or Bain. And I tried these tools, and quite recently tried again. I didn't know that I tried it a few years ago, not a few years,
Right.
like a year ago. And I thought maybe it's something new and something cool, but then you see it doesn't work. And there are
You're right.
other tools which are not as famous, but they do the work much, much better.
True. I agree. And I love the point that you pointed out, like how large companies are laying off people. And I'm going to use that and add one more thing to it for at least today's conversation, and we can continue the conversation later. Is so everybody reads these news. Like, okay, so I put myself into the shoes of the executive of a small company that I'm trying to help, or a medium-sized company that I'm trying to help. And the question comes to my mind is that, okay, I understand they are laying off, but I don't know what exactly is causing them to lay off and how those 8,000 people's job are going to be done with AI, and what aspects of those jobs are done more appropriately by AI and not. Once I understand that, then I can say I'm not as big as those companies, but the behavioral pattern matches to my behavior as well. So some of the things they are doing can be applicable to my organizations, but I need to know that more clearly. And nobody is giving me that answer. So then then question comes is like, I'm going to look up to experts, AI experts like Oleg. Hey, Oleg, can you help me understand if they are laying off these 8,000 people, what exactly is happening behind the screen, you think, and what aspect of those applies to me as a mid-sized company? That is first thing. That will help tremendously for my clients, at least. And
That's a good angle, and then I will talk about some other stuff which relates to this from other perspective. So why Meta is doing that? Obviously clear. You see the market, and at some point market goes to the sell. It's there is a like barrier, and you cannot grow. What you can do, you can grow your profit. And in this case, if your revenue is not growing as fast as possible as it was before, then you focus on your profitability. That's the one angle. The second thing, these companies are just trying to squeeze more profitability because they are very reluctant to do something new with the current business environment. I don't want to touch base, any political topics, but the world is going crazy, and their political decisions are significantly influencing the business perspective and how they plan, and it's connected across multiple regions: Europe, US, Asia, and destruction of previous market connections, value chain connections, distracting their multiple industries. And tech is on top, seeing this maybe faster, and they understand that they can adopt to this new reality much faster, because you don't need those big changes if you would work, for instance, for car manufacturing or any like heavy machinery, because the cycles of getting new people get adopted to this work is much longer than those in software development or advertising.
right.
Basically, Meta is not software company; it's a software marketplace for advertising, which actually connects a lot of people in one place, and then it's conversion of advertising in one place. But coming back about what will happen to the big companies, what they see, and I believe CRM companies will struggle the first, because right now what we do and understand CRM in the function which was before is coming back to out of the box solution. Why that? Because you remember those times when SaaS was just there. Everyone was buying from the box. Then you have a team, then you have support team inside the company who installs you, and but you paid once. Then it was invented free-to-play model in games and in SaaS that you pay monthly. And these companies became so spoiled that they were thinking, okay, we have one solution, we sell it to multiple companies, we just pay for service, and profitability is insanely high. Now with AI and what we do, we understand that CRM was done people for people. Now we are in the era where people, AI people, and AI replacing a lot of SaaS platforms which you used before. Now you can just abandon them. It's scarce, but we've installed it in few our companies, and we understand that one CRM we used before, HubSpot, is not needed anymore. It's just not needed, because you have email, they were replicating emails, the database, we have database. Everything else is a layer of multiple AI agents which are working instead of multiple complex fields, and all the information is extracted from your database, from all your company. And in most of the cases, it's very correct. That's what we do for big enterprises. The companies who are using Power BI, it's not needed, and it was complex. Now with AI, you do much faster, cheaper, and it means that if before you would need in bigger organization, I don't know, few dozens of VPs, now maybe half of them can do the work and be as effective as this big group before. That's where we see how AI transforms this number of positions within the companies, and maybe because of this sales decline, they are preparing by increasing the prices, which actually is a bad circle for them, because companies will trying to avoid these extra expenses much faster than it would be before. So that's what I see as an effective impact of AI into companies' profitability who are adopting AI, and those who are not seeing those opportunities for them yet.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And that's a really good angle to take it. I also liked earlier that you alluded to piloting, because I think piloting solves that problem and other problems as well. Because many times I feel companies want to do something, but they don't want to commit to over budget stuff or over long projects and so on and so forth. They don't want to disrupt both the economy and the organizational structure within organizations. So proposing pilots, maybe more than one pilot, any given company, hey, this is based on your objectives. We believe that if you did these pilots, you will know what to continue and what to stop. And that's a low risk, because they're not committing to a much bigger investment. They're not also committing to long-term commitments, both from resources perspective. So that's one thing that I thought is a great idea. And if you explore that even further, might be a new way of approaching clients. And then the second thing I thought while you were talking was about diagnostic. So having a diagnostic, let's say you just send a 5-minute diagnostic for a company to really identify where they are on this, that allows you to identify what pilots might be useful for them. So those two things, my understanding, will help the whole process, both educating, informing, and also supporting customers with AI.
And one thing I didn't mention when we are talking about their adoption and how it happens. Right now, it's very clear that you need to start with top of the company, either CEO or board, because these people, if they are not adopted and not open, they will listen to their C-level, then C-level listens to their groups, to their teams, and if this negative impact goes and stops CEOs and boards from adaptation, it means that there is no leadership in the company. Sorry to say that, but leadership is when you lead. And that's how all the changes are happening. Right. And if you as a leader don't see these obstacles within the company, and you think that your teams are not ready, you need to ask yourself why it's happening. And what I as a leader can do to melt this rejection, to melt these barriers, and try to open these people minds, basically, how to start adopt new technologies. Obviously, in every technology, especially new, always there are some problems, there are some issues which you need to address, but the benefits outpacing far above from what you will experience for the first few months or maybe few quarters of your work with the company. The benefits are very obvious, and that's why I think leadership is very important. If there is not enough leadership in the company, the adaptation will just freeze until changes will happen on the highest level. That's what we see, and we are trying to bring these ideas on the highest possible level. And only after these changes and their adoption of AI and automation can happen within the company.
Right. No, I agree. And I think that's the right structure, to right way to go about it, because if the leadership is not involved right from beginning, however you may work with the other organizational strata, eventually it's not going to work out fully. And the companies are not going to get the results that they are looking for. So you're absolutely right on starting with the top leadership and letting them really make the key decisions. As you said correctly, let them lead so that the organization succeeds with the AI. All right. Any other question? Because I think this was good for the first conversation, I think. And this was very impromptu also. Like if you notice, like this was not pre-planned or anything like that. Okay, these are the questions we're going to talk about, which I think naturally
regular discussion. That's what I wanted to discuss with you and put it online so that more people can discuss. And we are open also to discussions and comments. Maybe we have other vision, and obviously every person has this tunnel vision. We're trying to extend our vision as much as possible, but obviously it's impossible because we are people, not machines yet.
That's very absolutely true. I think one of the things comes also to my mind when we are really talking about these is really having open dialogue with leadership. And that open dialogue is like, look, nobody knows all the answers, right? Nor do you know all the answers, even if you're an AI expert and you're servicing AIs. So having that dialogue that, look, AI is a mystic situation. Let's demystify it with a clear understanding that it's just shifting as we are talking. That means it's not only complex and uncertain, but it's also changing the pace of uncertainty. So let's start with that as a basic. So obviously you, the leader of the organization, maybe either frozen, maybe overwhelmed, and that's very normal because this is what happens when things get fuzzy and fast moving at the same time. So it's first of all, it's fuzzy, and the second one is moving faster. So it's even fuzzy, so to say. So in that scenario, what are the choices that you have? One choice that you have is no choice. Second choice you have is that do nothing. And so in between that no choice and nothing, there is these opportunities. And so let's say if I'm Oleg, then I might say that the 4 opportunities that I see because I've been helping X number of companies for last 2 years or 5 years, and this is the pattern that we're seeing. The pattern 1 is ABC, pattern 2 is 1, 2, 3, and so on. And I would want to have that conversation with you. How do you respond? Where do you fall? Which pattern does identify you as an organization? And then let's have more conversation about that. How do you deal with it? Let's say if I'm not a service provider and I come to you to understand how are you dealing with that? What would you do? What are the questions you have? What is the support that you need? And how will you make your decisions? That is open, very open and transparent. Like, once you have that conversation, you're not selling them anything. You're just opening their minds up. And I do that in my own ways of doing stuff. And that's where I feel more traction. Immediately projects doesn't happen, but the trust is built, and then the conversation continues in some ways.
I still have this maybe very broad but interesting discussion, and I always push myself to ask once it might happen or not, because we're talking about moving fast to digital twins, where we'll have our AI identities online, who will be doing the decisions maybe for us, which good and bad. Good because you save a lot of time, but bad that a lot of decisions you'll be just relying on AI. And I just read a few days ago a report. Hopefully, it's not a report which was created by ChatGPT or any other LLM model, but it says that people who are using LLM models in their work, they improve their style of writing. And for me, especially, I'm not native speaker, but I see that the patterns I see from this copy-paste work in most of the
Mhm.
cases. I
Right.
improve my style of writing their shorter emails and maybe emails with a proper wording and more enriched wording. That's
Mhm.
one thing. But the other thing from these bad things that we are too much relying on AI, and I think we need to come to a point where we will understand that it's a supporting tool which helps you to do things.
Right. Very true. I agree with you. And one
But
example comes to my.
what happens in behind the scenes that these big companies, big tech, they working on AGI. That scares a lot. That scares because this actually will replace us as decision
Right.
makers.
True. 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 No, I think there's that fine line, and I don't know what the future of AI is going to do for that. But I hear you because I do see myself in that situation too. Like AI is helping me clear my thinking, but sometimes I feel that am I over depending on it to do my thinking versus
Absolutely,
clarify my
absolutely.
thinking. So there's a big difference between using a stick as a support and relying on the stick for support.
And
And
about stickiness, and then we will get back to this thing relying on AI. I just
Mhm.
had a conversation today going back from school. We dropped our daughter at school, and during the drive back home, I talked with my wife about how AI influencing many areas. And what I see that I use, for instance, ChatGPT and Claude. Claude is more faceless, not emotional tool. It's actually you feel you talk to AI. But what's
Yeah,
done by ChatGPT is just incredible in terms how they are responding to your ideas. Oh, it's
right.
great. You're doing so great, and it might look funny and you might think, oh, it doesn't work, but it works. I feel in myself that I'm more reliant on ChatGPT than on Claude because Claude is very cold and just content generated tool. I know you can
Yeah.
install things, but ChatGPT is not needed to ask to do that. He is just created the way that he's trying to flattering you, let's say this way, and to make you a lord of the tool. While this is where I think a thing where you cannot see and maybe bypass the moment once you are flattered and are played by AI to do the things which it needs for their ultimate goal of conquering the world or a galaxy.
No, you're absolutely true. Like if you think about social media, what is the magic of social media and people get hooked onto it is the emotional support. And what ChatGPT does, it supports you emotionally and makes you feel that you can be even better. And who doesn't want to be better? So ChatGPT is more going to be more addictive compared to Claude, whereas Claude is going to be more thoughtful in some
Well,
cases.
and a lot of decisions. For instance, what we have a mass adoption in the company with Claude because it's done a great job with coding. It does a lot of things on cognitive functions. But when you compare some analysis, ChatGPT is still number one for a lot of things to do.
Right, right, absolutely. So now you are an AI expert. I want to ask you a very layman question here.
Please
And
do.
the question is that like we keep hearing this everywhere. Like if you look at any social media newspaper, they say that, oh, AI is the next reinvention engine. AI is the next transfer of money. The biggest money transfer is going to happen because of AI. And then the third thing I keep hearing is that people who knows how to use AI is going to become much more richer than the people who don't. Or the other way to say that more millionaires are going to be made by AI than any time in the history before. Now, the question as a layman is like, what does that mean? And how do people make money, more money, like exponentially more money by using AI? And that's a question mark I never got the answer myself.
These things which are told by guys from Silicon Valley, it's far away from the real world. These guys lived in a bubble for decades, and they think that you've done something and you get the result. They never
Mm,
lived. I'm from Ukraine, and we are going through their terrible war. And what this war showed that it's not about how much money you have. That's
mm,
about power, and power is not money. Power is not money
that's
anymore.
interesting.
That's how you
Yeah, yeah,
can influence the group of people to do something for you. And people in
right,
Ukraine are fighting for their freedom, for their lives, basically, by passing much richer Russia with solutions with a lot of things. And
right.
these guys are not asking themselves, they're building the guy who fired the people from Meta building their bunker in Hawaii, thinking that's like a safe place. There is no safe place anymore with the technologies people have. And imagine that these people will be hungry and will not have another chance but to fight for their surveillance.
Right.
No one can predict the outcome. And the guys and this model, more millionaires, more wealth transition. Wealth transition is not about how you can transit it. Wealth is about how you can keep it and protect it. And what happens if there is no value, because money is just printed paper.
Right,
at the end of the end, you are buying something. But because of a lot of processes and systems and ecosystems are built around that, they're built on rule of law. And what's happening right now, rule of law is just disappearing.
Completely. Yeah, that's true.
And it means that saying that this will be like big number of millionaires, these guys might not protect themselves, not even the wealth, their lives. No one is thinking about that. Everyone is thinking that we will change and everything will be like we want. But it's big misunderstanding and misinterpretation of what it means to have money and to keep this for a long time.
Yeah, right. No, that's a great point. And thanks for saying that's a completely different angle than what I hear in the news media as such.
That's I think a big misconception of how people are thinking about the basic income. It's also why do you think it will be mass adoption? People will just I need to eat and think. People are born to compete and to become the best of the best. Once you break this, I believe that more revolutions, more wars are coming just in the next 5 years. And it's not because of political conflicts. It will be internal conflicts within many territories, including China, including the US. And we see that right now in many territories. And as a safe harbor in many things, like in Europe, you see that technology are not as evolved as, for instance, in the US. But it's not always bad, because you see how people are having this work-life balance. And I had a few discussions with US expats living here in Barcelona. And one of the guys, I don't remember if I told you this story, his son in high school said, "Dad, I want to live here in Spain because what I see, the guy having the small bar in Barcelona, shutted it down for a month in August and goes to vacation." And his question, I was very surprised because I'm not that deep living in the US and understanding. He said, "Can you imagine someone in his position with a small bar, whenever any city, town in the US shut it down for a month and go somewhere?" Just impossible, because as an entrepreneur with a small business, you're just a squirrel in a wheel and you need to run faster.
Right. No, that's true. I think that's so real.
It shows, again, coming back to things with wealth. Wealth perceived in many cultures and territories differently than it's done in other countries, for instance.
Yeah. Very true. Also, if coming from a research background, I see the three different ways, like West, which is the US, the West, which is the Europe, and then the East. So if you look at that way, in US, wealth is for accumulation. More you have, better it is for you, without even thinking why it is better and how is it better. The Europe is slightly different. It's saying the wealth, if it is making an impact on my life, then I'm wealthy. It's not just collection of money. And the East, money doesn't really matter, because the happiness and health and wealth are three different things. They're not interconnected. So that's a very interesting cultural phenomenon. If you go further east, like Japan and China, you will see that's even more. Not in the modern societies, but in the regional, local societies. Modern societies are everybody's following the Western pattern, because everybody wants more money without even asking how much and why. And what is that money supposed to do for you?
It's interesting because I think it's not only West, but it also goes with the age across the different territories.
True.
You're West when you're until your 40s. Then after 50s, you're West, and 70 plus, you're East, because you understand that.
So I think it is. I think
only life matters. Yeah.
Yes, true. I think it is that axis. Like one is cultural difference, and other generational differences. So if you map those, I think it'll be very interesting to see what is the meaning of wealth for each of those quadrants, and then probably what is the meaning of AI for those 4 quadrants also. Like if you look at the old, young person and old person, that's vertical axis, and then maybe three categories or 4 categories. And in the 4 cultures, like the west, east, and east, if you say that way, and what the AI actually means to them, and how do they perceive AI? That would be interesting. But of course, it is a different thing than what your business conversation was all about.
Life is not only business. And
That's true. I agree.
we are close to between West and East.
I think let's put that on the graph and see where we sit there. Well, this is a very interesting conversation. Actually, it is very unplanned and very spontaneous, and I love the flow of it in that sense.
But
Everything is
as
not
always,
about
it was very enjoyable for myself, at least. And Sudhakar, thank you so much for your time, because usually we have most of our time
Right.
talking about the business. But what I treasure in our relations and things with a few other folks, with close friends and with long-term partners and business clients, that we're not talking about business, because business is a part of our life, but sharing our ideas, and sometimes they are very different, even on the political level, religious level. But what I always like about our discussions, and that we can freely share those visions, ideas, and appreciate and think over the thoughts and respect the thoughts of the other person.
Yeah, and the respect is mutual both ways.
Thank you again for this opportunity, and our collaboration between our companies, Alltegrio and Future Forward, I think are doing great, but it's only beginning. And I believe that our business cooperation, business partnerships is just evolving. And I believe through these discussions, whether they are written and go public, or they just continue as we do, I believe they lead us to new horizons for both companies. And again, I appreciate for this support, and I hope that from our side, and I always open to support your initiatives to grow, not only business-wise, but also personally, and do impact for society.
Absolutely, Oleg. Thank you so much for having me. And as you said correctly, I think if you apply it back to the business, I think 1 or 2 things we should continue doing going forward. One is how do we help leaders clarify the value of AI, and in a way that they build the trust, but also they become more efficient in taking action? Or how can we induce the confidence so that they can take action, even if it means small action like piloting few things? That will help the clients, but also this will help us also. Like, where does the AI really play a role, and where we need to improve on AI in order to create new value propositions? So I agree with you. We need to continue this conversation further.
Absolutely. And I hope to see the comments and maybe alternative discussions, different vision on what we discussed, and would appreciate to go deeper in those discussions with people who can and will see this video in near future.
I agree 100%. No, thanks for the opportunity. This was a great conversation.